We do begin our show this morning with those new developments overnight following that incident along the Poland-Ukraine border, which is threatening to dramatically escalate the military conflict in Europe.
Yesterday, 2 people were killed when a missile fell in a Polish village near the border with Ukraine. This is now the first time the war has spilled over into a neighboring country, a nation that's also a NATO member. These pictures obtained by Reuters from social media appear to show the aftermath of the explosion. NBC News has not independently verified these images. And that's the major question this morning. Whose missiles are these and where were they fired from? Russia has vehemently denied that they're responsible. Poland's president says there's no concrete evidence on who fired the missile, but an investigation is now underway. The incident occurred as Russia launched a wave of strikes across Ukraine, targeting several cities, including the capital, Kyiv, and the western city of Lviv. Speaking on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Indonesia, President Biden said preliminary investigations contested reports that the missile was fired from Russia.
We agreed to support Poland's investigation into the explosion in rural Poland near the Ukrainian border, and I'm going to make sure we figure out exactly what happened. It's unlikely in the minds of the trajectory that it was fired from Russia, but we'll see.
We've got a whole team standing by as we learn more about this developing story this morning. We're going to start things off with NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons. So, Keir, first of all, just walk us through what we know right now about this explosion in Poland. What are Polish officials saying, and what are they doing in response right now?
Well, Joe, the Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, has just wrapped up a news conference in which he has said, and there are some crucial breaking news lines from that news conference. He says there is no indication that this is the result of a deliberate attack by Russia. No indication Russia is preparing an offensive against NATO, and confirming what we heard a little earlier from President Duda of Poland, saying it's very likely that this missile explosion was caused by Ukrainian air defense. As you rightly set up there, why does this matter? It matters, of course, because Poland is a member of NATO. If this was a Russian missile, if it was a deliberate attack by Russia, well, then that would potentially pull those NATO countries, including the US, into this battle directly, feeling that it had to defend Poland. So I think you can hear right now this morning the sound of a number of NATO leaders breathing out a little bit. It has been an incredibly tense 24 hours.
In addition to what we're hearing from the NATO Secretary General, of course, we had President Biden saying it was unlikely the missile came from Russia. We know a senior U.S. defense official, European government official, also told NBC News that the preliminary indicators suggest the Ukrainian air defense system was involved. So what's been the reaction both from Russia and from Ukraine to all of this?
Well, Ukraine's President Zelensky immediately kind of went on the attack in regard to Russia. And I suppose you could say that that would be expected. What's been pretty stunning, I have to say, is hearing the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov in a call just a little short time ago praising President Biden for his restraint, describing others as hysterical because the U.S. president came out pretty early to say this did not look like it was a Russian missile, did not look like a deliberate attack by Russia. So I suppose you could say that what we're seeing here are positive signs that when something like this happens, and remember there have been a wave of attacks by Russia on Ukraine just in the past day or so, when something like this happens, and perhaps it's inevitable that it would happen, that the NATO members are responding. Another point just to make, and I think it's an important one, Jens Stoltenberg also at that news conference saying, let me be clear, Ukraine is not to blame. Ukraine has the right to self-defense. So that's the second part of what these NATO countries are saying. OK, it may have been Ukraine's air defense, but hold on a second, that doesn't mean that it's Ukraine's fault. The responsibility for what's happening lies with Russia, because it is Russia that is launching this barrage of attacks.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.